Hello, I'm Shelley Rothus, and I'm a different kind of victim. Today's topic, trauma bonds. Now, where did I come up with that? As I've been going over in previous videos, is my personal boundaries and coming up with them. So recently, I encountered another situation as to where I felt blame for situations that happened to me. And with that current, most recent situation as well. So, on my path of self-discovery, in that I had realized that, again, conditioned normalized victimization syndrome. It was a normal pattern and learned behavior where I always took the blame and even apologized to my three alcoholics when I didn't do anything wrong. And I always felt guilty. I ended up feeling guilty and all those bad feelings because I just felt I needed to apologize. I always took the blame for it as though I was the problem. So that became where it was a huge problem for all of my relationships, because even when I didn't do anything wrong, I still took blame for it. So let's go back to the online bullying incidents with Ken. In the not recent, but the last bullying incident, I actually blamed myself for Ken experiencing stress. Well, like, I'll even do the, funny. This was him when he's getting, messages, and yelling at me because he's getting all these messages from people complaining about me. Well, you know what? It's not my fault that, I was getting attacked and bullied for no reason whatsoever, that people are getting enjoyment off of hurting and harming me. So that goes back to where I came up with the boundaries that I'm not going to forgive and stay friends with somebody that would sit there and watch me get harmed by others. Now, what did I realize that goes along with that is I shouldn't blame myself or feel guilty for those things happening to people. So in that case, it was Ken's choice to be in that bullying cult clan. That was his choice to stay friends with people who did things like that. It's not my fault, and I'm not to blame for them doing harm to me. It's not my fault. Just like it wasn't my fault for many things when I was getting abused. I took blame for getting abused and how the ill behaviors and treatment from my three alcoholics, with the abuse. I took blame for it. So I did that within all of my relationships. And even with the current situation, I was feeling the same way. Even though I did no wrong and it wasn't my fault, I still felt guilty. Again, conditioned normalized victimization syndrome. I didn't want to face the consequences or punishment. And that was, of course, like I explained it was the wants and the need and the feelings in between. So just like with my three alcoholics, it was just easier just to take the blame to avoid even more abuse from them. And that's exactly how I handled other relationships. Also, because I was when you have a situation such as mine, three alcoholics, they make it out like, we're all you have. You need us in your life, blah, blah, blah. And that's exactly how I felt, they were all I had. I needed them. That's how they raised me to believe. And that's what abusers want. They want their victim to think that they need them in their life in order for them to have a fulfilling life, meaning they'd be nothing. Their worth and value, they would have a horrible life without them. They want the victim to believe that. Just like they want the victim, why do you think they want the victim to believe it's their fault and they're to blame? That way they keep the victim under their control. So, again, what my father chose to do, because before my first boundary was I wasn't going to accept or tolerate anybody who turned somebody who is important and valuable in my life against me to I'm not going to tolerate somebody who was important and valuable in my life turning against me and watching harm being done to me. Like I stated, pushing aside the situation of what I was in, I was trying to escape my 3 alcoholics with Ken involved at that same time, just by coincidence, which made it much harder. I should have unfriended him a long time ago. As I've stated, that was a very toxic relationship that I chose to stay in. And I really should have unfriended that person a long time ago because of what they had done and already proven to me. Actually, it was even, Santa Viking that said, they were in a hate group, Shelley. That's not a friend. They're absolutely correct. And that's where I came to recently. Just recently, I came up with the boundary that I realized after somebody had tried to blame me for something that wasn't my fault. And I realized, I said, it's not my fault that happened. They chose to do it. I'm not going to take blame for something that isn't my fault. So that's part of my new boundaries, is I'm not going to take blame or apologize just because that person is important in my life, or I found them valuable and I looked up to them highly or felt close to them. No matter who it is, I don't deserve that. That's putting me lower than them in the relationship and not taking stand, to what they've done wrong and taking responsibility for it and blaming me. Absolutely not. So that's a new boundary of mine, which also brought me to the topic of trauma bounds, excuse me. Now, I never really liked that term, so I kind of just not really paid attention. And why is that? Because trauma bounds, you think of, victims. You think of trauma, you think of victims. So victims are the ones that need empathy. Many people, they go to, pity and all that, but what we need is empathy, as I've stated in other, videos based upon my personal boundaries and how people have treated me. So, do abusers deserve a pity party? No. That's a huge problem, not only within the mental health field, but society as a whole. So that even went back to my 3 alcoholics. Oh my goodness. My 3 alcoholics, even other family members that experienced abuse, like with my mom's side of the family. They're from Poland, they were held, hostage and this and that, slavery and all that. Well, they went through that, so that's why they abused, me or whatever. No, absolutely not. Not an excuse. No exceptions or excuses. I was abused. Does that give me a free ticket to go and abuse somebody else? Is that an excuse or exception that I would make for myself? Absolutely not. I would take full responsibility. And that's something that we need to focus on, is the person who caused the harm should be focused on as to taking full responsibility. Because when we don't, and we say, well, they do it because of this, that's moving the victim away and taking focus off them. Another problem that leads to is the victim blaming themselves. And many times we wonder, why did they go back? There's other reasons too. But when we take the focus off the victim and make excuses or exceptions for the abuser who caused the harm, who's at fault, what does that do? That drills it into the victim's head that, well, maybe I should, be considerate of their feelings, they can't help what they're doing, so I'll keep on giving them more chances. So I'll go to Ken. Now, Ken has had issues with relationships that have hurt him. So I even took that into consideration. He's had family issues. I took that in consideration. Even others had, given him excuses based upon him ghosting me, saying, these are the lame excuses that, I know are lame. Well, Ken's been really busy, when they read my stuff, they would say, about the ghosting, he's been really busy, he's been helping his mom, and they're, just like he gave me the same excuses, basically, I'm dealing with a lot of family drama myself, You know, me and my friend Karen were talking about this, all the lame excuses that people give after ghosting you and just taking off for several weeks, like I had stated in the previous video. You know, that's the same lame excuses that, you know, many people give to, you know, abusers, you know, that do harm, and they give them excuses and exceptions. You know, sorry, you know, not going to happen. You know, I'm not going to throw them no pity party. You know, I'm not giving no thumbs up for somebody, you know, abusing others and throwing them a pity party. I got another finger for them for a party that I'll give them. So that's a little sense of humor. But that's about the only party that I should throw them. And that's the only party that they actually deserve, not a pity party. So this is just the introduction. I will be reading as to what I have gotten so far based on the topic of trauma bonds. And I actually changed it to my own term as to what I think it should actually be. And that is assaholics, toxic, pity party addiction. That's absolutely correct. And that's what it should be. Because it basically is a addiction. You know, the condition normalized assholism syndrome goes along with that too. So let's all take a stand against giving excuses and exceptions to people who choose to do abusive behaviors on others, and to taking responsibility for those chosen actions and behaviors. I've had enough of the lame excuses and exceptions that has actually enabled and encouraged abusers to continue the abuse cycle, and actually has harmed victims more. So I hope to see you for the next video, which will be based upon what I have written based upon my new term, which is assaholics, toxic, pity party addiction. So that's my new term to replace trauma bonds. And that's because when we think of trauma, we think of, you know, the poor things, you know, oh, you know, just like, you know, I'll joke around with Ken, because I know you joke around, you know, and, yeah, he's so stressed out, he's so busy, you know, he can't, you know, type in there, you know, I'll talk to you later, you know, I'm busy right now, you know, you know, he's got a lot of stress, you know, okay, so, I just feel a little bit goofy today, silly. So, anyways, I hope to see you for the next video. I'm Shelley Rothus, and I'm a different kind of victim. See you next time.